For today's project, we're going to make a mountain shelf to hold anything from essential oils to knickknacks. So let's get started. To try and make this a little bit easier, I drew the shelf out on a piece of cardboard. All of the angles are 30 degrees. I will be making the entire shelf out of Wenge. I normally break down thick stock pieces with the bandsaw. I recently picked up this thin kerf blade and stabilizer to see if it helped my rigid table saw not bind up so much. Spoiler alert, it really worked great. I'm going through all of my normal steps of breaking down this, jointing two faces, then taking it to the planer, and then finally taking it to the table saw. So now that I got them broken down into thinner stock, I'm going to leave them overnight and just let them get acclimated to the shop. From what I understand, it's always a good idea to do that once you break down big stock. So they're still a little on the thick side, got to take some off, and they're a little wide, so I'll cut them down to final tomorrow. Using the drawing as a reference, I won't be using a tape measure. I found this is often a much easier approach. When I mark the wood, I always mark the short side of the angle. The reason is I've set up a scrap piece of wood to act as a zero clearance. The blade kerf is cut at a 30-degree angle. This allows me to align the reference marks that I made with the inside kerf edge, resulting in pretty precise cuts. Being that it will be pretty difficult to sand this when it's fully assembled, I decided to do some sanding first. So I'm going to be sanding from 120 all the way up to 320, and that should give me a pretty good finish. My original idea was to use glue and pin nails to put this together. That was a mistake, as you'll soon see. No matter how straight I thought I was holding that dang pin nailer, it would just come through either the top or the bottom of the piece I was attaching. Very frustrating. I would have to cut the nail, file it flat, and then use a thick Sharpie to cover up the tiny nail. Alrighty, so a little bit of a confession time. I ended up walking away from this very frustrated. I finally came back to it a few days later. During that time, I decided to use clamps instead of nails. In the end, this was a much better approach, but not without its own set of challenges. I must have changed these clamp positions 100 times. You know, in hindsight, now that I'm looking back, I really should have attached some cauls temporarily to aid in clamping. It would have made this so much easier. Most of these joints were good, but I did have a couple that needed some fixing. So a really good trick to do is to apply some glue and then use some sanding dust from the piece of wood that you're using, and it fills in those gaps. And once you get it done, sand it, nobody will ever know. I typically use only axe wood products on turning projects, but for my woodworking projects, I always tend to reach for the Odie's oil. It smells fantastic, and it applies a great finish. Check down in the description though if you're looking for some wood turning finishing products. I've got some coupons down there for the axe products. There are any number of ways that you can hang this on the wall. Heck, you can even just sit it on a table or any flat surface if you want. But for this one, I decided to go with just some standard picture hanging parts. I really hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, please consider hitting that like button. If you want to see future videos, make sure that you're subscribed and you turn on those notifications so you don't miss anything. Until next time, I wish you and your family a blessed day. Thank you.